Welcome to the Face to Face podcast. Today we're going to be talking about positioning your brand, your company brand, why some agents don't have to sell themselves and are perceived to be the trusted advisors, how their personal brand has homeowners predisposed to do business with them before they ever meet. Time to go to work on your business. Let's get started.
This is Face to Face with the co-founders of the National Association of Expert Advisors, Jay Kinder and Michael Reese.
We believe that we can change the real estate industry. There is a better way to sell real estate.
Your success is ultimately a sum of the decisions that you make.
And they're really developing a process, a set of guidelines, a set of procedures.
They're also best-selling authors.
Here today to discuss the issue is Jay Kinder and Michael Reese.
Well, this is going to be definitely a great topic, especially after the last episode, Jay, because these I think these topics are definitely closely related, obviously a component of one another. But today we're going to be talking about positioning. So for everybody who's listening today, hopefully if you didn't get a chance to listen to last week's episode, go back and check it out. It was on differentiation, one of the most important things, makes everything infinitely easier if you nail that. So make sure you go check that out. So what are you most excited about? What about this topic today, Jay, on positioning?
I think I'm most excited about, I think there's going to be some ahas that people have in reference to that, like the way that we've structured our companies and the way that we've set things up in terms of positioning, and some really good takeaways that they'll be able to implement right away into what things they're already doing that'll help them with their business. So I think that's what I'm always excited about.
So, one of the things that we talk about in positioning is really how you're one of the. I'll just go ahead and jump right into the deep end of the pool. One thing that,
we call that the cannonball.
The cannonball, right? And this comes down to so many people, and this is just a real topic that people have a trouble understanding what to do, a lot of decisions. So when you're growing your business, I would like to talk about, how you position yourself amongst all the brands. So what I would say is it's your personal brand and how you're positioned. A lot of people don't ever begin there. They're just trying to get a listing.
Right.
They don't even know what they don't know. And things the business starts to grow.
Right.
And next thing they know, one day, back in the day, Gary Keller was considered a what? He was positioned as a what?
What do you mean?
One day in the day, he was positioned as a real estate agent.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so I'm sure if you went to GaryKeller.com, 20 years ago, if it would have existed, but it didn't, but if it would have, it would have been, in today's day and age, it would have been an IDX site, right?
Right.
And then at some point, it might have the millionaire real estate agent, author of. Then one day it might be, author of best-selling books, The One Thing.
Right.
Right? He might be considered, like, what I like to say is, if you haven't taken the time to write out your LinkedIn profile, right, and you don't know what it is that, when, are you a real estate agent? Are you a real estate investor? Are you I'm not trying to make this hard, but like what's your LinkedIn profile, and more importantly, what is it 5 years from now?
Right.
So
is it sustainable?
Yeah, exactly. What's your LinkedIn profile going to stay 5 years from now? How do you want to be positioned as in the marketplace? I just think that's a great question for entrepreneurs. I like to talk about things that make me think. And this has just been one of those riddles. Even when I think I got it, I didn't have it. And it was one of those harder things to, even though it's so simple to understand, it's like understanding Steve Jobs,
right?
The iPod, the iPhone, Apple, iTunes, and podcasts. Those are all brands that are all positioned a little different. And if you look at if you look specifically at Apple, they said, let me see here. Our customers want to know who is Apple and what is it that we stand for in the world. Where do we fit in this world? we were about what we're not about is making boxes for people to get their jobs done. We believe that people with passion can change the world forever. Those people that are crazy enough that think they can are the ones that actually do.
The misfits,
right?
The rebels,
The rebels, and that's how they position. They didn't just position themselves
right?
As and that led through in their branding. It led through into the community that people wanted to be aligned with how they were positioned. So
Right. It's a great example. It's a great example, right? Like they didn't want to be positioned the same as Microsoft,
right.
and so what did they do? They positioned against Microsoft, as the rebels, the misfits, um, the what do they say in the commercial? The round pegs in the square holes.
Right.
That was how they were positioned against the enemy was everyone else in the industry that wasn't them, right? Like you're either one of us, and you believe you can do things to change the world, or you're not one of us. You're one of those guys. And I think to a certain degree that's I have a similar feeling when it comes to being positioned as a real estate professional and being lumped in with the all the agents in the marketplace that you could just call any agent. I want to be positioned completely different than every other agent in the marketplace at all costs because agents are seen as a commodity. You can get any agent anywhere to come out and put a sign in your yard. Why would I want to be looked at in the same through the same lens as them? How do we differentiate from that? How do we position ourselves against that? The average agent that sells 6 or 8 homes a year. So yeah, I'm definitely tracking with you on positioning. How would you like to proceed?
Positioning. So it's really the battle for the mind, right? Was it Jack Trout?
Yep, that's
Jack Trout. Yeah. So he introduced the book. That's probably one of the most widely read, maybe the most popular read content on the topic, and I know exactly where it was on your bookshelf. It was in the top left, and I know you've read.
There's like 4 books and I can't remember who were the authors of the other ones. But
Al
Rise.
Yep, yeah.
R-I-E-S.
So they published that book, Positioning the Battle for the Mind, in 1981, and basically, it's understanding the long-term efforts to establish a place in the mind for your target audience based upon your products, your services. What is that unique space that you want to dominate? And so, positioning a lot of the times, if you think about, I'll give you an example. Whenever we're creating something for a real estate agent to learn, people ask me, is this a program? Is this a training? Is this a course?
Right.
Right? Now, it seems stupid.
Right.
But we get hung up on, when we're working, like, is it a training? Well, like is this a certification? Like, what is this? Now, for you guys, you might go through a lot of training, but you don't have to. You have to realize on our end, when we're trying to provide training, training in the mind, if it's positioned correctly, or a certification, or if it's coaching. Some people have never probably really decluttered what's the difference between coaching, training, courses, but we've had to, right? And that's an exaggerated example, but those are services that we provide to people over the years. And when we're thinking about those as product statements and how they're positioned, those things are really important. So you need to look back at you're really trying to cut through the clutter, if you will. When Amazon first came out, their positioning statement was exclusively around books. So it was for a World Wide Web users who enjoy books. Amazon is the retail bookseller that provides instant access to over 1.1 million books, right? Well, we know that's not true.
Right.
It's changed. And so how you're positioned over time is going to change as your business changes. And I believe, I'll give you an example. If are you going to be expansion? Are you going to be the Kinder Network?
Right.
Kinder Nation.
Oh, Kinder Nation.
I like that. Kinder Nation.
I like that. We can go with that one.
But it's understanding and working backwards and taking the time to say, how am I going to be positioned as a business, as a person, and understanding that as it relates to the whole thing. If you were going to get introduced to walk on stage to speak at a elementary school or junior high school or high school or a room full of your colleagues, how would you be positioned,
Right.
right? And
Right.
and that's your personal brand. How's your personal brand position? And so those are just, I think that those are important things as it relates to. I'll give you an example. There's this lady. They do it all the time. The PhD, right? So she's got a doctorate,
Yeah.
and so no matter what she does, she could help with sleep or building pools.
Right.
Because she's got a doctorate,
Yeah.
it's naturally implied that her stuff's a little bit more thought out,
Right. Right.
and more thorough.
Right.
Unless
She's an authority.
an authority,
Even
off
if it doesn't make sense, it's still an authoritative move to put PhD at.
yeah, and I can't, and if I was trying to compete against that, that would be a little bit harder,
Right,
you know.
right.
Now, with that being said, you always have a move and a way to position yourself. But this individual was, you know, was different, and
Right.
so anyway, long story short, positioning. This was just me sharing my personal observation over the years. Going from being a real estate to a trainer to what the hell really am I, right?
Right.
I know what I like to do. I know, and for you, I think that that's important as well because you can be a pillar in your community positioned as
Right. You're the go-to agent. You're the
Yeah.
go-to guy if you want to sell your home fast. You're the go-to agent for first-time home buyers. To get their first home, whatever the case may be. Right.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm chewing my arm off. Right.
All
Like
right.
this is I love this topic and most I say most. I think the last we did the demographics, the listener base of this podcast is largely teams doing 80 plus transactions. So there's a large number of you guys out here that are killing it and producing and trying to look at expansion, and you're trying to think long term and sustainability, and am I going to step out of production, and and then it all comes down to what is the brand, right? Like this is like probably one of the questions I get the most, and it's one of the most dangerous. Like if you want to make everything work at a fraction of what it could be working for you, then get this part wrong, okay? Because and I'm well aware of the argument that we would love to be able to build a brand around the group or around your some type of a team name that doesn't have your name and your face on it. But we just don't have any evidence that is going to ever work at maximum. And when you look at the reason why, well, the reason why I want to do that, well, there's a couple reasons that could go off on a tangent, but I'll leave that be for the moment while we have this conversation of who the brand is. And Jay-Z says it best: "I am the brand." You are the brand. It is your business. You are the brand. What are people going to remember? They're not going to remember there's I can use an example. We've got a mastermind client that has Realty Edge group or whatever, right? Like that's really hard to hang on to and remember when you see him on a billboard, you hear him on TV, or as you've grown this business and you've become more recognized in your community, it's you that's become more recognized. It's you that people are identifying with. You are the brand. You represent the business. And while you can do this really well if you have I think one of the things that we don't really talk about that much, Michael, that I think that you were the one that nailed it was with everything we did, we recognized we got our face on the sign, and people see our signs everywhere. People you hear people when you get to a certain point in your business where people say, "I see your signs everywhere." Then you start doing direct mail or you do billboards or this, that, or the other, that you incorporate the sign in your marketing, and then people they don't necessarily associate the fact that the 300,000 postcards that you mailed last month, to every person in the whole city which Mike Reese has been noted as doing. They get that postcard. They feel like I see your signs everywhere. Where maybe they haven't seen your signs in their neighborhood necessarily as much as they think they have, but they've been getting that damn same postcard that has a picture of the sold sign with your face on the sign in their mailbox every week for the last 2 months. You definitely have. And again, positioning and really all of marketing is about owning the prospect's mind, the mind share when it comes to whatever it is they're trying to do. If you're trying to sell your home, who do you think of first? You go to the convenience store, go to 10 different convenience stores, and ask, hey, who's the top real estate agent when it comes to getting a home sold fast? And if you're not in that conversation as number one or number two, then you ain't getting a phone call. Okay, you might get it by a referral, but if you're not number one or number two in the mind of the consumer, and you can do this, like we talk about, being the Incredible Hulk and jumping up and down in a puddle. You want to be known and whether it's a neighborhood or you're taking over the entire marketplace when you start doing large scale media, with either direct mail, billboards, radio, and TV. All of those can get you reach across an entire marketplace, and reach and frequency is what makes up whether or not you're going to get mind share or not. So if you're communicating the right message over and over and over, the frequency in which that same person hears a message is going to determine whether they think of you first when it comes time for them to make a decision. And either you've got a clear understanding of what it is that you want them to remember, because whether they're driving down the road and they see your billboard, or they're listening on the radio and they hear you say it at the intro, in the ad itself, and on the outro of the radio ad, you want to make sure that whatever they go to their computer and Google, it's going to pull up what you want them to see. And I think most people don't make this connection of how important that is when it comes to what your brand is and what it is that you want people to Google. If people are going to Google Jay Kinder, I pretty much know what's going to show up. And unfortunately for me right now, since I'm not actually actively selling out there, selling real estate, my brand in Oklahoma is still Jay Kinder, real estate experts. But most of the things that if you're looking for me and I would say that our brand today is we're the guys that do what we preach when it comes to real estate, and we always have. And we're teaching not from just a theory. We're teaching from proven results that we've gotten ourselves, which I think is rare. But that's what people are going to find. They Google Jay Kinder, they find information about selling a home for the most amount of money, and probably some testimonials and things of that nature. So when somebody Googles your name, what comes up? If it's a home buyer search site and you're trying to build your business on the listing side, when people Google you and they're looking for you because they were thinking about you, you want to make sure that they're landing on the right place when they go to do that search. But the positioning of whether should it be this or that group, or is it the personal brand in real estate, what we know is it's a relationship business. And you can say, well, I want to sell my business, I want to step out, I want to recruit people to come on board. But I'm just telling you right now, if you're going to spend the money, and you're going to spend the money on marketing like we all have, then you have to understand that you are the brand, and you are the person. Whether it's you on the appointment or not doesn't matter, but they're calling you. You're the person they remember. Put your damn face on the sign. Make it about your brand. You are the brand. Just understand that. Everything else you do is going to work in large percentages better if you have something they can attach to, a person they can attach to. The caveat to that is Geico. If you got a gecko, I'm saying, that you can use as your person, and that's a good example, Mike. So think about that, right? Go to the insurance examples, right? What is Allstate? You're in good hands. It's the same guy that does that commercial every single time. You got Flo. Flo is Progressive. I can't remember State Farm. Who's State Farm? I don't even remember State Farm. The Farmers guy I remember. You know what I'm saying? We've seen it. We covered it. You know what I'm saying, or
Jake.
whatever. Jake from State Farm, right? So yeah, so that's so those are all people now. So they've tried to brand. That's a dangerous thing to do when you think about being an insurance company and like Mayhem. I think that's a really good one too. Mayhem for Mayhem like me or whatever, right? So that's another one with Allstate. But they're using they're using people to represent their brand. That's what you got to understand. When you see insurance companies using people to represent their brand, That's the same thing you're doing in your business. You are the brand. You're representing the brand. And the gecko is the example. The Geico, the gecko is the example of not having a human in that position of being the brand advocate, if you will, that the consumer might identify with or whatever. Most of us don't identify with that little gecko, I don't think, anyways. But touche.
Heck yeah.
I'll let you chime in.
No, well, I think one of the things that I know for us is you can go. Now this is totally there's a lot. I mean, like when you design the brand, your strategy, and how you're going to be positioned in this thing. I think one of the exercises that you can do that I watched somebody else do that was a mentor to us that made sense, and they unfortunately before they gave me their answer, I really anyway they nailed theirs, and they nailed it to a point where I was a little jealous because they said exactly what we do in a better way before, at the time I even knew that I needed to be saying something. But I think that the point was I wouldn't even have recognized it until I became aware. So understand, like, from a positioning, there you can actually use a positioning statement, which that will help you understand. Like, a positioning statement is going to address a target audience. So, like, when you might be, if you're positioned as the luxury, I mean, is there people right now that are trying to position themselves as the luxury
Yeah.
agent? So, like, it's like you have to have target market, problem statement, category, value proposition, and differentiation. Those are really the things, or the components, are that are going to help make up um, um, your positioning statement. And so, just in my mind, I see it a little bit different as your business starts to grow and you get other people on the team, and they're wanting to, like you were saying, with people wanting to expand all of those brand things, and then maybe you're at this brokerage and then you switch to that brokerage. If you nail your positioning statement, in my opinion, then the brand of what brokerage you're at doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's because you've positioned yourself, not the brokerage, as the value proposition. And so when you've done that correctly, then a lot of people, they don't know what they don't know, so they're just leaning on the tools that have been given them, which are really not differentiated, because if you say Remax, well, then everybody else in your office can say that, right?
Right.
And so it's understanding, your positioning, and so, some people might be positioned as, serving a certain category, certain target market, a certain price point, a certain area, certain neighborhood. Um, However you want to do it, just understand that it truly is at the fundamental core. At the fundamental core, it's really diving in and understanding that you know it's a strategy that's basically deliberately a plan for branding, or maybe a process, if you will, um, and taking in consideration the consumer's consciousness and how what they're perceived as you. And I think it was Elon Musk that says, perception will find reality over time, like divided by time. So you can't just position yourself as being something that you're not, because over time you'll be exposed.
Right.
You want to have brand positioning that's congruent. You can't be positioned as the person that does things fast, or this, or thoroughly, when you actually do things slow, inconsistent. You find those people that are good at marketing, but the delivery of the product or the service is not in alignment with the brand and the positioning, and then you get that incongruency, and then you really aren't tapping into the benefit of what you're trying to accomplish in the first place, which is, if you want to attract and become the go-to in the marketplace and be known for, then you want to start owning the mind in a way that's differentiated. So again, like we said, in the last episode, if you haven't checked it out, go check it out on differentiation, where Jay talks to the story about the car wash. Do it in a way where you can go back and deliver the handles of why you need to go check these people out, or work with this individual, or
Right.
or what have you.
Right. What's that connection that you're going to make, with the community that you serve, that they identify you as? And I think for us, I think over the years, the thing that I was always focused on, I did it on accident. I didn't know what the hell I was doing at the time, but it started with I got positioned as the expert. And I didn't mean to get positioned as the expert necessarily. I basically went to the story is I went to an elite retreat, which was back at Coldwell Banker. This is like when I was 20 years old. And this lady that was killing it in Bend, Oregon. I can't even remember her name. Her sister ended up being an agent on my team one day, down like years later. Super random, but anyway, she had laid out these market reports and that she had created and she had mailed, and I was looking at it, I was like, man, that's a great idea. We need to do that, because I was actually genuinely interested in doing the market study on our market, because I didn't know all the largest employers. There's just things I didn't know, and I was like, man, that sounds really interesting. I want to do this. So I went back and I did it, and I mailed it to. I didn't have anybody to mail it to, because I was 20 years old. I mean, all my buddies were drinking in college, and I didn't have a sphere of influence, so to speak, and any past clients. So I mailed it to the Chamber of Commerce list, right? So all the influencers in the marketplace got this market study by Jay Kinder, done by Jay Kinder, or whoever this kid is that nobody knows. And interesting thing was that a few people that didn't get one, that were appraisers and different things like that, they called and asked if I would send them one. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll send you one. And that became
That worked.
yeah. So the next year, of course, I didn't do it, right? So I didn't do the market study the next year, because I couldn't really point to me getting a bunch of deals from it or whatever in my mind. And yeah, people asked about it, and people talked about it from time to time that I'd run into it, different functions and whatnot, and they were like, they just appreciated the market study I sent them. They just appreciated it. Like, they read through it. It was simple, and it made sense as to what's going on in the marketplace. And no one had ever done it before. So that was unique. What the next year, when I didn't do it, because we are as real estate agents, something you do this work and you stop doing it, and I didn't do it, and then people started calling me asking for it. I was like, oh shit, now I got to go do this market study. So we created it again, and mailed it out to everyone again, and I started becoming known as the market expert. And then we, as things evolved, we started doing it by email. We did a weekly update. I got that off my plate. Then John was doing the update, and then we found out later, and this was after years of us doing it. We found out that the local banks were using our market studies that we were releasing. They were using that in the board of directors, and in the meetings where they were making decisions on doing loans, certain loans and whatnot, and the market, they were using our branded market study, and they passed it out to everybody on the board, and it was a part of all those meetings, and I didn't know that was the case, but these are all the influencers in the marketplace. I mean, not just the banker that I banked with, 2 banks that I banked with, but that was fascinating to me, and the more I was focused on becoming positioned. Once I realized that I was being positioned as an expert in the marketplace, that's the best place you can be positioned, because people come to you because you're the expert, because you can help them solve a problem, because you can give them the information that they need. You can tell them what they want to know. And what does everybody who wants to sell a home want to know? What's my damn house worth? So, who do you call? Call the guy that does the market study. You should call Jay Kinder. So people that were in my marketplace that didn't know me but got a hold of this market study, or had seen that, oh, well, hey, they use it here at the bank, he must be the expert. Like, all of those things started happening, and I was positioned as the go-to guy in my marketplace. And so that's again, that's an example of being positioned as as an expert, being positioned as the go-to expert, if you will. I think that's a good one if you're going to go with one, if you don't know what your positioning statement might be. But that's just an example of and again, I had to know the market, and I had to demonstrate that on every appointment, and deliver on the fact that I did have that market knowledge, more so than anyone else in the marketplace. But you want that position as the advisor, because you want to be you want to be you want them to be asking for your advice, not you having to sell them on why you do business with them. And I think that's the again just the importance of positioning and doing that consistently in everything that you do is going to give you. It's either going to position you and make that clear, or it's going to be confusing and people don't know why they should call you in the first place.
That you know what that reminds me of the story when I was with you, Barbara Corcoran. Didn't she do something like that, similar?
Yeah, she did actually. Her story, if I remember right.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
how
yeah,
she.
yeah,
That's how
yeah,
she got.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
she did
Barbara
this.
Corcoran became successful. For people that don't know that story, that's a great point. I forgot about that. For people that don't know the story, Barbara Corcoran issued a market, basically
She
like
got
a
Donald Trump to call her.
she knew how to she knew how to ruffle feathers too, for sure. But she had it was Richard Gere that was buying a duplex, and she had published a report and sent it out. That was about.
Send it to the paper.
Send it to the paper, and the paper published it, and then she became known as the real estate agent to celebrities.
And she didn't even have the listing.
And she didn't know how. She didn't even have the listing. Didn't even work with him with Richard Gere, but was just publishing a report on what he was looking at in the New York City market, and then became known as the the agent to celebrities, and then that got published in the newspaper, and then the celebrities actually started knowing her as the agent to the celebrities, and she started.
She manifested.
Right. She
positioned herself.
She positioned herself as the go-to agent of the celebrities in the marketplace, and made that shit up basically. You know what I'm saying? But that was that's there's probably a little bit of a threat there in that approach. But I don't think it was malicious. She was just trying to say this is what celebrities are looking for.
Well, she was entering the conversation that was going on in the marketplace, and she was becoming the narrator to the story. With Trump's example, she wrote a report about the square footage and the price of the new Trump towers, and Trump, from her story, said that he called her because he wanted to debate with her based upon her publication that she was just providing for the newspaper. And I think what she said was the newspaper's always looking for something to publish based upon what's going on, and so there's all different kinds of PR things and plays that you can do. I forget what they were, like PR Wire or PR News.
Yep.
There's all different kinds of places where you can write about what's going on in your community.
You can go to HARO, Help a Reporter Out.
Help a Reporter Out
is HARO. Sign up for that as a real estate expert, and you can you can get picked up for different articles and stuff like that. But you should send that stuff to the Go ahead, keep going.
No. I'm not. Well, you publish that information, and you can publish it on your blog. You can publish it to your email subscribers. You can publish it, in your local community by providing content. But that's the positioning statement, and it would say such and such is the person who does this, that, and the other. So. I just thought that was I remember when I heard Barbara's story, I felt like I was hearing your story.
Right, yeah. It's I didn't even tie the two together. I've actually forgotten about it. But yeah, that's positioning. I mean, and you can do that, in a number of different ways. I mean, if I was to do it again, I definitely would be positioning myself in the market here as, the real estate agent of the Dallas Cowboys, but I would, the approach that she took was she published what she had learned that they were looking for, and what, like, specifically Richard Gere, who was looking at condos and looking at 2-bedroom condos and high rises and this and that and the other, and she just posted what she thought this is what they're looking for, and that I think the newspaper might have spun it a little bit for her, that benefited, but I think that's a great example.
Heck yeah. So with that being said, you should have, if you have not listened to the previous episode on differentiation, make sure you go back and listen to it. Understanding differentiation and positioning together really gives you the tools that you need in order not only to build your business, but actually craft a strategy, not only a brand strategy, but a marketing strategy that will help you position yourself. And I think position yourself meaning help you have something that transcends just the marketing piece, but something where you're with every impression, you're starting to be known for something because it was a strategic intent. I want to be known for this. So, take the time, if you haven't taken the time, to really nail down what your positioning statement is. And it's going to be basically 4 steps. You're going to have to know who your target market is, what the market is, what your promise is, and in any type of evidence or support, if you will, that can back up those statements. So you want to answer the questions like who is your company, what's your brand, and what do you stand for? You got to be answering the question who are your customers, and what do those customers want and need, and then who are your competitors, and what do their brands have in your marketplace, and how are they different? They might not be, and that's a huge opportunity. And then finally, how will you reliably meet the needs of your customers? Because remember, we want to have congruency. We don't want to only make a promise and be positioned as a certain thing. We want to make sure we deliver on that promise. So with that being said, Jay, I know that there's a lot to this. Hopefully everybody understands the difference between their personal brand, the brand in which their brokerage is, how they need to position themselves, and how to look out over the next 5 years and really take the time to step back and think about their business and what they're building and how all these pieces are going to come together.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, that's all I got, man, for today.
Well, we'll continue this conversation as we always do, and tune in to the podcast. We appreciate you listening, and as we always say here at Kinder Reese,
We'll either see you at the top
or from the top. Make it a great day.